Good day everyone. Today we will discuss Chapter 1, Introduction to Pollution. Before I start, what is pollution? Any idea? For simple definition, pollution is the introduction of contaminants into the natural environment that can cause adverse change to the environment. For complex definition, pollution can be defined as the addition of any substance, comprised of solid, liquid, or gas, or any form of energy such as heat, sound, or radioactivity, to the environment at a rate faster than it can be dispersed, diluted, decomposed, recycled, or stored in some harmless form, and can have negative effects on the environment and wildlife, and often impacts human health and well-being. Pollution can take the form of chemical substances, or energy, such as noise, heat, or light. Pollution is often classed as point source, or non-point source to the environment. The major kinds of pollution, usually classified by environment, are air pollution, water pollution, and land pollution. Nowadays, modern society is also concerned about specific types of pollutants, such as noise pollution, light pollution, plastic pollution, soil contamination, radioactive contamination, littering. Pollution is one of the great existential challenges of the Anthropocene era. Pollution endangers the stability of the Earth's support systems and threatens the continuing survival of human societies. So, what is pollutant? A pollutant is a waste material that pollutes air, water, or soil. Pollutant is any substance released into the environment as a result of human activity or natural processes that has an adverse impact on living organisms. Pollutants, the components of pollution, can be either foreign substances, or energies, or naturally occurring contaminants. There are three factors that determine the severity of a pollutant. 1. Its chemical nature. 2. The pollutant concentration, and 3. The pollutant persistence. Let's look in persistent organic pollutants, or POP. The environmental pollution threat increases if the organic substances that have been released into the environment are persistent, or known as persistent organic pollutants. And they can remain in the environment for a long period of time, or even several decades in the soil. Some example of environmental pollution with POPs: destruction of the products used in households, use pesticides and other plants protection chemicals, industrial, chemical production. Example of POPs are pesticide, DDT, dioxins, polychlorinated biphenyls, and any others. When we talk about pollution, we will relate it with environmental degradation. Environmental degradation means that the environment becomes unusable for its designed purposes, or that the development of living organisms and their communities in the environment is disturbed. It can cause creation of the unfavorable conditions for living organisms and limits for development of the organisms and their communities. Several environment degradation factors. First one, physical factors, such as electromagnetic radiation, noise pollution, thermal pollution. Second one, biological factors, such as infectious agents, parasites, living organisms whose metabolism or decay products are harmful to humans or other living organisms. What are the sources of pollution? Air pollution can come from both natural and human-made, anthropogenic sources. However, globally human-made pollutants from combustion, construction, mining, agriculture, and warfare are increasingly significant in the air pollution equation. One of the example, motor vehicle emissions, one of the leading causes of air pollution in our environment. Countries such as China, United States, Russia, India, Mexico, and Japan are the world leaders in air pollution emissions. Agricultural air pollution comes from contemporary practices, which include clear felling and burning of natural vegetation, as well as spraying of pesticides and herbicides. About 400 million metric tons of hazardous wastes are generated each year. What is your opinion? A lot or not? We, humans, have been the primary cause of global warming since the year 1950. Humans have ways to cut greenhouse gas emissions and avoid the consequences of global warming. But to change the climate, the transition from fossil fuels, like coal and oil, needs to occur within decades. Some of the more common soil contaminants are chlorinated hydrocarbons, CFH, heavy metals, such as chromium, cadmium, that found in rechargeable batteries, and lead, found in lead paint, aviation fuel. And still in some countries, gasoline, zinc, arsenic, and benzene. Ordinary municipal landfills are the source of many chemical substances entering the soil environment, and often to groundwater. Emanating from the wide variety of refuse accepted, especially substances illegally discarded there. What are the impact of pollution to our environment? To humans? To organisms? Different types of pollution can impact us different ways. The adverse air quality can kill many organisms, including humans. Ozone pollution can cause respiratory disease, cardiovascular disease, throat inflammation, chest pain, and congestion. Water pollution causes approximately 14,000 deaths per day, mostly due to contamination of drinking water by untreated sewage, especially in developing countries. The oil spills can cause skin irritations and rashes. Noise pollution induces hearing loss, high blood pressure, stress, and sleep disturbance. Metals, such as mercury, has been linked to developmental deficits in children and neurologic symptoms. Older people are majorly exposed to diseases induced by air pollution. Those with heart or lung disorders are at additional risk. Children and infants are also at serious risk too. Lead and other heavy metals have been shown to cause neurological problems. Chemical and radioactive substances can cause cancer, and as well as birth defects. Biomagnification describes situations where toxins, such as heavy metals, may pass through trophic levels, becoming exponentially more concentrated in the process. Carbon dioxide emissions cause ocean acidification, the ongoing decrease in the pH of the Earth's oceans, as CO2 becomes dissolved. The emission of greenhouse gases leads to global warming, which affects ecosystems in many ways. Nitrogen oxides are removed from the air by rain and fertilize land, which can change the species composition of ecosystems. Smog and haze can reduce the amount of sunlight received by plants to carry out photosynthesis, and leads to the production of tropospheric ozone, which can damage plants. Sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides can cause acid rain, which lowers the invasive species can outcompete native species and reduce biodiversity at the area that they dominated. Invasive plants can contribute debris and biomolecules, allelopathy, that can alter soil and chemical compositions of an environment, often reducing native species competitiveness. Soil can become infertile and unsuitable for plants. This will affect other organisms in the food web. Organic pollution of watercourses can deplete oxygen levels and reduce species diversity. Lancet Commission on Pollution and Health found that global pollution, specifically toxic air, water, soils, and workplaces, kill 9 million people annually, which is triple the number of deaths caused by AIDS, tuberculosis and malaria combined, and 15 times higher than deaths. Pollution control. Pollution control is a term used in environmental management to manage and minimize the impact of pollution. It means the control of emissions and effluents into air, water, or soil. Without pollution control, the waste products from overconsumption, heating, agriculture, mining, manufacturing, transportation, and other human activities, whether they accumulate or disperse, will degrade the environment. In the hierarchy of controls, pollution prevention and waste minimization are more desirable than pollution control. In the field of land development, low-impact development is a similar technique for the prevention of urban runoff. What are the facts of pollution? Every year, more than 14 billion pounds, or 6 billion kilograms, of garbage is dumped into the world's ocean. Most of it is plastic that is toxic to marine life. Known as the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, there even is a continent made from the plastic trash, floating in the Pacific Ocean. According to some estimates, the patch can be as large as twice the size of the US. These pictures show where is the garbage patch located, and what type of garbage can be found there. Landfills are among the biggest contributors to soil pollution. About 80% of the items buried in landfills could be recycled, such as aluminium, plastics, and glass. There are more than 500 million cars in the world now, and the number is expected to rise to over 1 billion by year 2030, which means the pollution caused by cars could potentially double by that year. Americans make up about 5% of the world's population, but produce as much as 30% of the world's waste, and use about a quarter of the world's natural resources. We know massive deadly oil spills are created after tankers or drilling rigs have accidents, but in fact, for every million tons of oil shipped, there is always 1 ton of oil spilled, without any accident. The only relatively clean place on Earth is Antarctica. The continent is protected by the Antarctic Treaty that prohibits military activities, mineral mining, nuclear explosions, and nuclear waste disposal. Water pollution is even worse in India, where almost 80% of all urban waste is dumped into the river Ganges. The river is the most sacred river to Hindus. The river is now also the place where poor Indians bury their deceased family members. China is among the countries with highest air pollution in the world. Breathing air in Beijing, the country's capital, increases the risk of lung cancer in the same way as smoking 21 cigarettes a day. Noise pollution is one of the most ignored types of pollution, but it can cause serious problems including stress, hearing loss, sleep disorders, and high blood pressure. In the US alone, millions of people suffer from noise pollution. With computers, TVs, cell phones, and other electronic devices becoming more and more available in the world, electronic waste has been an increasing problem in recent years. In year 2012 alone, people produced almost 50 million tons of electronic waste. Fishes in rivers are in the process of changing sex due to water pollution. Hormones in human sewage, including those in contraceptive pills, are thought to be the main cause. Thousands of marine animals, including fish, turtles, and dolphins, die after swallowing plastic bags that resemble jellyfish. Almost half of all seabird species, 22% of cetaceans, all sea turtle species, and a growing list of fish species have been documented, with plastic found in or around their bodies. These days, there are up to 500 chemicals in an average human body that were not found in humans before the year 1920. In total, there are almost 80,000 types of synthetic chemicals on today's market. According to a scientific study, about 1 in every 8 deaths that occur in the world is somehow associated with air pollution. Recycling and composting prevented 85 million tons of material from being disposed of, which is great, but considering that humans produce tens of billions tons of garbage every year, it is still a negligible number. Light pollution usually doesn't have a significant impact on humans, but it causes major problems to many animals. Birds often confuse days and nights, and scientists found that light pollution can even change migration patterns in some animal species. So, in your opinion, what we can do? Some suggestion. Good practices how to manage waste. We can recycle items, or reuse it, or reduce or minimize the waste. Pollution preventing, or you can compost your organic waste. That's all for this chapter, Introduction to Pollution. Thank you.